Hi everyone, we are back with another video, and this will be a continuation from the last video that we made for the NFL model tutorial. This will be, I guess, video three in that series. If you haven't watched video one or two, or you didn't make the model, you're going to want to go ahead and do that before you get into any of this, because we're really just kind of picking up where we left off. And the purpose of this video is I want to show you, first of all, how to make an exposures table. So you can see, the exposures you have of each player within the lineups that you're going to play. And also, I want to help you set up a little bit for doing kind of like a slate review the next day. Just, a few things to check to see how the slate the night before went, how your model is working out for you, and stuff like that. I want to stress very much that with all of these videos that I'm making, these are just introductory videos that are designed to get you to be familiar with Excel, see some of the things you can do, and just really provide you with like a ground zero baseline for where to start. I fully intend for you to use these, but also to grow them, expand your knowledge, expand what you're doing here, put your own flavor into it, really make it your own. I hope that you understand that as we make these models in these videos, that their utility is not super high in terms of just the way that they come out here. Because again, I'm trying to help you to understand how to do this stuff, not necessarily spoon feed you, step by step instruction on how to do it. And then the other proviso that I want to add is I also cannot stress to you enough that some of the things that I'm showing you in these videos are just examples of what can be done, and they are meant to be, considered just examples, not me saying, hey, this works really well in DFS. This is the formula that I would use. These are the settings that I think are best. I think you should do randomness this way. None of those things here are being conveyed. Okay, these are just examples. Like this table we left off with the last time we made the min, max, and average of our ownership projection and our boom scores. Does this have any utility in your DFS process? Maybe not. It's not something I use, but it's something you can do. And seeing how you can make this helps you to understand other things that you're going to make. In fact, as we get into this video, you're going to see that I'm going to use something very similar in design as when I made this to help us to review our previous slate. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. This is an empty model right now, so we're going to need some data. I am just going to grab, let me just grab last night's, yesterday's main slate NFL. The other thing to keep in mind is that we're going to build this out as if it's NFL, but these models are really interchangeable. In fact, the skill set that I hope you develop in doing all this will allow you to, do this for NBA or MLB or whatever else you want. You're going to have to make some slight changes, some alterations, but the whole purpose of doing this is for you to, learn that skill set that is required to do those things. So, as you hopefully remember from that video, I'm just grabbing the player list from Fantasy Cruncher, which is what we used as our data source here. And if you're building your own model, maybe that's not the data source that you want to use. Maybe you want to use, the Boombust tool as your total data source for projections and ownership and players. Maybe you want to use the players from the DK salary file and projections from, your own model or from somewhere else. So maybe you want to aggregate. Again, these are just examples. I'm just getting some data in here so that it populates our model. And it's we need boom bust, I think, right? There was some old boom bust in here. Let's go ahead and get, oh, I don't even know if I have yesterday's boom bust. This might be from, is this from next week? Let's see. So, so it looks like we're not pulling any of our data. So that tells me that perhaps FC made a change in the way that they um, display this data since we last did this video. So this would be a good update. I know that they did add these headings in. Let me see. So what are we at here? So we're looking in player list row 1 for these values, which is not where they are. So that's the problem here. So the first thing we're going to have to do is change this to look in row 2 on the player list. And then since we're moving down a row, I think we need to move back a row here too, but I'm not sure. Let's make sure. Let's just populate this all the way across. Just Control C, Control V, and then we're going to send this all the way down. Here we go. And now just to make sure that I got this row right, no more negative, let's just, oh no, see we're clearly off because we have data here and we have player. Oh no, you know what that is? That's just because I haven't adjusted this yet. This needs to start at A3 now, not A2. Fantasy Cruncher just changed the way that they display the, and then send this down. They just changed the way that they display the player list. So we want to go in here and check. We've got Kamara is 7,400 and he's projected for 1691. And here we have 7,400 and 1691. So that lines up with Kamara. And then just to be 100% sure, I'll come down here to Barkley. Barkley is 8,600 and projected for 2273. Barkley is 8,600 and 2273, and we're good. All right, so now we got this all lined up. Here we go. It looks like FC projection is not populating. You'll see a bunch of things here aren't populating. Again, they've just made some changes. When this happens, you just need to figure out, what am I looking for here? I'm looking for the Fantasy Cruncher projections. So what are they here? They have gone away, right? So Fantasy Cruncher moved to this model where they put headings instead of saying Fantasy Cruncher projection, my projection. So now this is really the projection before you change it. So it's just S that we're looking for here. And it's the same here. So to be honest with you, the problem with this is that we might be looking in AK for projections in some of this model. And if you've done much more advanced stuff with your model, you might be looking in AK in several places. Here, we're looking in AC, which is here. So, okay, this is probably the actuals or whatever that is from over here. What is it? Yeah, actual data. So let's go ahead, and the easiest way to fix this is just to make this another my projected column so that it populates. That way, anytime we're looking here, even though it's redundant, you can go ahead and take this out if it's not something you work on, or you can go through your model and see all of your references that are AC. You could change them to AD. There's a bunch of different ways to do this, but I don't want to spend the whole video doing that. So I'm just gonna kind of clone that over there so that it fixes the model and populates here, and we're good to go. So now we've got everything populated in our model. Now to do what we need to do here, we're going to need a crunch. Let's go ahead and run a crunch. Yeah. I want to get a decent amount of values. So let me throw in some randomness here so that we're not sitting here for a month of Sundays waiting for this thing to finish. Just at least get a few hundred lineups. And while I'm waiting for that to crunch, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start prepping over here. We'll leave this for now. I'm just going to get it out of our way. Just put it down here. Okay. And actually, we're going to start with the exposures table anyway. So we'll start over there. I've got myself some lineups here. All right. So let's grab these lineups. I know you can't see off screen what I'm doing. I'm just crunching 500 random lineups and opening up that CSV and grabbing the crunch just like we did in the last video and putting it in here just so we have some data to work with. There we go. So now we've got some lineups to work with. So the first thing we want to do today is we want to know our exposures, right? So let's say we get it in here. We've got our score set up here. Maybe you have 10 columns here that you're using for master score, whatever you're doing, but you basically rank your lineups, you sort your lineups, and now, okay, presto, these are our best lineups up top here, and it goes in order. Best, second best, third best. But the question now becomes, what are our exposures in those lineups? And so let's say we're playing 150 lineups. What does that look like? I'm going to get this out of here, to be honest with you. We don't need to know that right now. All right. So let's start our exposures table here. We're going to leave a space, though, because it's not going to be part of this. Okay. If you see all these filter boxes here, we want that to stay with whatever it is connected to over here, because when we sort, we want to sort everything this way, but we don't want to sort everything this way. We don't want to sort my table here when we sort by value there. So let's go ahead and we can start by saying player, and then, so one thing that's I think good to do to an exposures table too is to add some other data, to it. So I will say me, which is going to be my exposure, and then I will say fields, which is the field's exposure or the exposure projections, and then we'll just add some simple data for whatever projection, right? Just so you get an idea. Now, up top here, I'm going to run across and merge this, and I'm just going to say exposure table. Okay. And I'm going to give myself some room for the player list. Now, the first thing we're going to need here is to populate some player data here, right? And this is just going to basically be a list of all the players on the slate. You do not want to get it from anywhere within this part of your model, because as it sorts, it's going to change the listing over here. So what we're going to want to do here is just pull the player list again from here, even if it feels redundant, even if you have it other places in your model. So we're just going to go in here and say equals. Now, we could do one of two ways. I'll show you both ways. We could say if, and then we're going to go in here and say the first player, if copy player list A3 equals blank, then make this blank. And then if you remember, the reason we're doing that is because by the time we get to the end of this list, when we get to, A 512, we don't want to pull these spaces over. We don't want to pull zero values in, because it will not pull it as a blank space. It'll pull it as a zero. So you don't pull that in. So say, if we're looking here and it's blank, then don't do anything. Leave the cell any other page blank. If it isn't blank, however, which is value of false, let's pull over A3. Pull over copy player list A3. Okay. So now we do that, and you can't send this down, right? Because nothing is connected to it that has the number of spots that we need to go. And frankly, we don't want to go down. There's 2,000 spots for lineups here. We don't want to go there's not 2,000 players. So just copy it, and let's just give ourselves some breathing room, right? 750 or 1,000, something like that. It doesn't matter, right? Err on the side of larger than, more so than smaller, because we have the if blank then blank. So we're not going to have a bunch of garbled data under here. So you can go down to 1,000 and it'll just be blank. And then just to show you, the other, actually, no, we'll just keep it like that. Now I format this. I like to format my player stuff all the way left, and then I give a little indent. And that's just how I prefer to see it. However you want to do it, I don't care. I like to center all my numerical data, however. So I will center all these columns. Now, well, let's do projection first, right? Because the field ownership and projections are easy. We're just going to reference this data. Now, one thing I recommend you do, you could absolutely pull this from here, right? You could say, let's find out where it lives, and then match the player and pull it from here. But I always recommend you go to your main page to pull your data. And the reason is because we've taken great steps on this page to verify that these columns are correct. Okay. When I pull ownership from here, I have validations to say that it's correct. In other words, like this formula is not pulling this column no matter what. If this changes, if FC moves ownership over here, this is still going to be ownership. If FC moves ownership over here and you're referencing this column in your sorter, you're going to pull whatever's here for ownership. So I always recommend going to the main. So let's pull the field ownership here. Now, again, we're going to use our trick. We're working on the BDs, Alvin Kamara. If BD3, if our first name is blank, then leave this blank. If it's not blank, then we're going to take action. We're going to index. Now, remember, index match is the most important formula to know in Excel DFS. And I mean, you could maybe make the argument it's in Excel, but certainly for Excel DFS, you want to know how to index match. Okay. So what we're saying, index is array, where to look. Where do we want to look for this data? We want to go to NFL main and we want to look for ownership. We want to look in this column. So it's NFL main Z to Z, the whole column. I will at least tell you here that when you're dealing with tons of values, thousands of rows, you can save yourself some data processing if your computer is old or slow or your model is huge by limiting the scope of where you look. So like if you know that there are a maximum of 500 or 750 players here, you could say, let's look in Z3 to Z750. That way it will not have to search in every Z. It's not much quicker. And it does save some processing power, but not a ton. I do recommend doing it, but you do have to remember if you do it, you have to lock these values in. You have to use the dollar signs, F4, to change those. Otherwise, when you go to the next one, it's going to start looking in 4 and then 5 and 6. And it's going to look in from 4 to 751 and from 5 to 752. So you want to always look in the same thing. If you just choose to go Z to Z, it'll look in the whole column, but it'll never change. You'll never have to, worry about it. I'm going to do that for simplicity, just so that we don't take forever in this model. So from now on, you'll see me, I'll just use the whole column reference. So now, where do we look? In array, we look in Z to Z on main for the ownership. Now the row number, this is saying what value do we want to pick out? Which one? Which number do you want returned? Well, we want whatever one matches, okay, our BD3. We want to match Alvin Kamara. Wherever Alvin Kamara matches, where do you want to look to match Alvin Kamara? Over here. Because what this is saying is look in the ownership column and whatever value matches Alvin Kamara, pull that number out of the ownership column. So we want to look in A to A. Now you hit comma again, and it's going to ask you how you want to search. Less than. Never, ever, ever are we doing less than or greater than. These things are not, they don't work. I don't know why Excel offers them. They're terrible. I've never seen an application for them in my life. You always want to look at exact match. Okay. And then you want to close your parentheses and you want to close them until you get the black one that tells you that you've closed everything. Hit enter and you've got nothing is there. So clearly we have done something wrong. What have we done wrong? So if it's saying NA, it's saying that we failed to match. Oh, I said B3. Whoops, I missed the D. That's what I missed. We wanted to match BD3, not B3. There we go. And there we go. Now we've got our ownership. Because what that was trying to do was trying to match Justin Fields, but with this, ID number to that main page, and it wasn't finding him. So we've got the field. You can change this to percentage. We know the field is at 19. If you want to add the decimal place, it's 19.0. In case it's 19.5, you could do that. Now we want to find the projection. Now, we know the projection is going to be the exact same formula because we're going to get it from here. It's just going to look here instead. So instead of Z, we're going to look in AC. So again, the easiest way to do this, click in here. Don't copy this cell because that will change these references to the next one over. If I copy this and paste it here, it's going to not look in ZZ, it's going to look in AA, okay? And it's going to not match BD3, it's going to match BE3. It's going to change everything. Come in here, highlight the formula, click Control-C to copy the formula, and then make sure that you either hit Escape or Enter to get out of here. You do not want to just click out here because then it's going to start changing this formula. Come over here. paste your formula in. Now, you'll see this is going to give you the same number because we're looking in the same place, but we know we don't want to look in Z, we want to look in AC, right? So we'll just simply change our reference of where we're looking for data to AC, and now we've got projection, okay? Now, here's the crux of the whole thing, right? Me. Where am I at? The field's at 19. What do I have? What do I have now that I've sorted in my top, say, 150? Now, here's where this gets a little complicated, okay? Because when you're going to look here, you're going to have to decide how many places to look in. So let's start by just assuming you're a 150 maxer, okay? So we're going to go equals if, whoops, not INF, if BD3 equals blank, then blank, fine. If it's not blank, we want to know how many Alvin Kamaras we have in our top 150. So what we want to do is we want to count if, okay? This will count the number in whatever range we give it, and then it's going to ask for the criteria. But first we need the range. Where are we looking for it? Well, we're not going to get cute. There's no reason to be like, well, Alvin Kamara can't play wide receiver. Let's just look here and here and here and here, because it needs a range. A range is not this column, not this column, not this column, this column. It's not like that. A range is an entire connected group of columns or just one column. So we're going to look everywhere for them. We're going to look, and here's where I will use the specific cells. We're going to look from L3, and we're going to lock that with our F4, 2, right? And then our 2, what the heck? There we go. My keyboard delayed there. L3, lock. 2, we use the colon for 2. We're going to look from here to T3. Except we're not going to just look to T3 because that's only going to search one lineup. We're going to search to T2002. So we search every lineup we have. But since we're only doing 150 lineups, we're going to have to choose right here. How far down do we want to choose? For 150, that would be 152, because remember, we're starting at 3, okay? So this will search 150. We're going to lock that in too, because we always want to search those 150 lineups. For Patrick Mahomes, we don't want to search from lineup 2 to lineup 151, right? Now, comma, the criteria is BD3. In other words, search here and try to find what's in here. So Calvin Kamara, okay? Close our parentheses, and it tells us we have 6. 6 Alvin Kamara lineups in our 150. Now, we can do this for everybody by just simply sending this down, and we can send this down now that we have all this data, and we can send this down. And now we've got our little table here, okay? We can start to make it look nice again, right? Oh, I don't like that. I like this. Yeah, I like that. All right, we'll do that. So here we have our exposure table, and we are pulling out the number of lineups we have. We have 32 Pat Mahomes. And now obviously you can see here, you know, if we find somebody that's projected really low, like, well, 0, we don't want 0. Ellinger, we don't, you know, and so you can look through here and say, like, do I have anybody in this lineup that's projected really poorly? You know, like, that's not a defense. That, you know, do I have a wide receiver here that's projected for 5 points or 3 points that's, you know, 30 lineups here? Something doesn't make sense. But nonetheless, there you go. Now you have your exposures, but you have it in number of lineups. And that's not typically how we think of things. So we'll insert a row here, and we'll say me percentage. And I meant we'll insert a column, excuse me. Insert a column, me percentage. Now, basically, all we need to do here is we want to take, and again, you know, you want to keep everything clean. So just, I keep using this, if BD3 is blank, then it's blank. Otherwise, take BE3, which is the number of lineups we have, right? Divided by the number of lineups we looked in, which is 150. And now that's going to give us our exposure percentage, which is how we're used to seeing it, right? 4%. See? And there we go. So now we have our exposure percentages. And now that's much easier to compare to the field, right? So Tyreek Hill, in this particular instance, we're a little bit under the field. We're way over on Amon-Ra St. Brown, way over on Fields. It's actually we might have done pretty damn good with these lineups based on yesterday, 31% Barkley. But anyway, so you can see this is where we've got our percentages. Now, you might be sitting here saying, all right, cool, but I'm not a 150 maxer. This doesn't help me. I'm only going to enter the top 20. Well, if that's the case, then you can change this to 22 and this to 20. If you're sometimes a maxer, sometimes a 20 maxer, you can add yourself a couple more columns and you can just take this formula, copy it, put it here, paste it, change this to 22, change it back to general because it's right now it's a number. Okay. And then you could take this formula, put it here, and change this to BG divided by 20. Okay. Because we're taking BG3, taking BG3, dividing it by 20 in this instance. Boom. So here we're counting all the BDs, all the BD3s in our top 20, and we're saying that's 5%. And now you could say, you could just say me 20, and then me 20%. Okay. So that is certainly one way of doing it. I will tell you, there is a way that you can set this up so that you can have a number here where you type 150, 25, and have this column automatically adjust to however many lineups you want to look at. How many Camaros do I have in my 33 top lineups? And this can dynamically change. It's more complicated than I want to get into this video. And quite frankly, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but this is exactly the kind of spoon feeding that I'm trying to get away from doing. If this is something that you want, go and figure this out. It's things that your process a lot better when you start wondering how and seeking answers and getting better. Okay, so I'm just here to tell you that it's possible. It's not even that hard. It's just not something that I'm going to show you here today. If you just want to set up a bunch of columns here, how many in 20, how many in my 3 max, how many in my, whatever, you can do that too. However it works best for you. But now we've got our exposures table set up pretty nicely. Okay. Let's move over to a little bit of review stuff. Okay. What if we wanted to see how we did on this slate? Well, we're going to need a new place for some data. We could bring it in here and copy over it because as you see, we have this score, which is the actual score that these players got. However, please appreciate that you will not have this actual data populated. This stuff will not be here if you have set up this model the night before, right? If you did this pre-lock like you're supposed to, this stuff won't be here. It'll be unpopulated. It's not known at this time. We could copy over this playlist and bring in the actual data, like you just saw it a minute ago. What that will do, though, is it will also alter any of your lineup sorting that you've done because now this new playlist has different projections, it has different ownership, it's all updated, and it may not leave it where you left it when you actually put your lineups in. For this reason, I like to make a new page, and I like to, I'm going to come in here and steal this yellow target block by just copying it and pasting it in here because it will paste the conditional formatting underneath. I like that as my destination. This tells me that I need to paste something in here and tells me where. And then I will make this yellow because this is a page where I'm pasting like I always do. And then this is going to be called actuals. Okay. Now, what you're going to paste in here is going to be literally just the uh, playlist, just like you would pre-lock, but it's going to be from the Fantasy Cruncher Rewind, okay, where they populated the actual data. If you don't have FC Pro, you don't have Rewind, then you can figure out how to adapt this to any way that you are able to get this data, the actual scores, okay? If you get this data from another source, this will all be applicable. You'll just have to do it a slightly different way because it won't look the same. That's it. Okay. But here I've got this from FC Rewind. Now I know everybody's score. I know that Mahomes put up 35-14 yesterday. So now we have this data in. Okay. I want to bring that actual data into our main model as well, because again, I typically like to store things here and then pull from here. I will leave a space just so I can identify readily, and I'm just copying this design over here, that these are my actual values. Now, if you recall from video one, we use this fancy ass formula here, substitute this whole thing, to basically find wherever in this sheet these values go. If FC changes them, we're not going to be able to do that here. So this is one instance where if FC changes the column in which the actual stuff populates, it's not going to work anymore and you're going to have to fix it. But it's also going to be very obvious if you're looking at like, you know, your actual scores and they don't match up. So it's no harm, no foul. It's just that these names may not be in the same order as they are on this page. So we can't use the other formula. So, oh well. But we can use our if A3 equals blank, then blank. And then we can use our index matches. So we're going to index. What are we looking for? Where are we looking for it? We're looking for it in actuals. So that'll populate that here. And we're looking for the actual score, Z to Z. What are we trying to match up to it? We're going to match our A3. Now, please note, I'm typing this because I didn't put the actuals here. This is not this A3. This is the A3 from the main, because that's where this formula lives. We're just visiting this page right now to be able to click in here. This formula, we're typing it into a cell on this tab on NFL main. So A3 will reference this NFL main A3, which is what we want. So we're going to match the A3 there to the A columns here. So find whatever's in A3 there, here, and then pull out the actual score. And we always do it by exact, close our parentheses, and here we go. And we're going to want to just center this stuff because that's how it should go. One little trick, if you know you want to send this down to match up to all your other data, but you're trying to leave a space, you can't do it. See, it's not working because it doesn't know, there's no adjacent column for it to follow, but you can type a 1 here and then send both of these down and it will butt up to this and match. And then you can just click in the 1, Control Shift down and delete and go back up and it's all gone. And now you've kind of cheated your way into matching up your data. Cool. We get our actuals here. Go back to our sorter. Now we need to pull our actuals in here. Let's do that right after boom, because we're going to need an actual score for every player. So this is DraftKings. We have one. We just did this for DK, right? And you're going to have to, when we built this model, yeah, if you want to do this for FanDuel, you're going to have to just adjust it to whatever FanDuel structure is. I mean, it really shouldn't be that hard. But anyway, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? We have 9 positions to worry about. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we're going to insert 9 more places. What I like to do is I just copy this and then I paste it here, because then it's already formatted for me and I can just say actuals, and then I can just click here, drag down and make it a new color. And this is my color for actual data. It doesn't have to be yours, okay? But now we have our columns for actual. So now we're going to be pulling the actuals from the main page from AQ, all right? Well, we've already got a formula set up to pull stuff from the main page, which is here. So why don't we just borrow this, right? Work smarter, not harder. Stop rewriting stuff. You don't need to do it, okay? Just make sure that you copy the one from QB. Otherwise, you're going to be pulling the running back into the QB spot and all that stuff. Because this matches up to L3, which corresponds to my QB, right? Okay. But we're not grabbing AC, which is projection. We're grabbing a Q, which is actual. Okay. And I just deleted it because I fat fingered it. Actual. Copy. We can send this over because our L will adjust to M, to N, to O, and it will line up to everything. And we will send this all the way down. And it can go down because even though these are blank, there are formulas in here. There's data here. Just I don't know why it's not populating. I think we'll look at that in a minute. I don't know why that's not actually populating JJ. Oh, J to J. What the hell do we do there? That's weird. Oh, you know what it is? They must have changed the boom bust tool too. This probably used to be, while we're here, this was boom percentage. Oh, you know what it is? I didn't copy the boom bust tool in here. I grabbed the showdown single game plate. Hello. That's the problem. So let's just grab the boom bust probability data. There we go. That should have been what we pasted in here. And lo and behold, J is still not correct. It should be I, because I think we've added the day in here. Look at, nice. So let's go back here and fix our stuff. You should be I. And it's not going to pull a lot of this data because I think the boom bust tool is now, as Bill Belichick would say, we're on to next week. So, we're just gonna have to live with that. Whatever, we don't need it. We got our actual data. So now we have our actuals for each player, which means we can add an actuals column to our fun totals list over here. Actual. And instead of summing, we'll grab this formula because we're going to sum, right? Same thing. But instead of summing the boom score, we're going to sum the actuals. I hate when I accidentally hit the insert key, which then wants to ruin my life. And lo and behold, now we've got some lineup scores. So now we know exactly how. So our top lineup in our sorting method, not so awesome, right? But hey, whatever. These are just generic numbers. This isn't our process. Once we build our models, we do a lot of back testing and we build these numbers out. We add some columns, maybe we take some away. Maybe we don't use these at all, but this is just the demonstration model. Okay. But we got our actuals. Okay. And we can now bring our merged totals over because that lines up with this. And we're not going to be putting the actual into these because we're not when we sort, we're not going to have actual data. I mean, if we did, then we would just sort by actual and win every time. So we're not going to bring it there, but we do now have a total for every one of our lineups, which is clutch, right? We're going to put in a new table and I'm going to move our exposures over a little bit. Okay. Because I want to work in here. And I want to know well, let's find out. Yeah. So what I want to do here is I want to know what the score was. Where did it place? Okay, at least to start. We'll do this. So, and I'm not going to use gray because gray is very specifically, for me, the color of my sorting little section here. So what did it score? What did it place? What do I mean by that? Well, actually, I need to, I actually should have put these over here. Those belong here. And these are going to be 1, 2, and 3. So I want to know what was my highest lineup? My second highest and my third line highest. Not my sorted lineups. What are the best lineups I produced? And also not in my 150. I want to know what my best lineup was that I crunched. So let's go ahead and find that out, okay? So to find that out, we need to know what is the largest lineup in this column. So equals large. We could do max, but since max will only give you the max, the number one, since we're going to be finding large as second and third, we use large as easier. So let's use large. The large of what? The large of this column, please. And notice, again, I always want to draw your attention, when you have a merged grouping of columns up top here, it's not going to give you BH, it's going to give you BE to BH. It's going to follow the merger. So you have to come back here and fix this. We just want BH. The large of BH, the K value in statistics is which, like to what degree, right? We want to the one. We want to know the highest, number one. But we can also reference that one in BN3 because that says one. And the benefit of this is now if we copy this down, it's going to reference 2 and 3. And it's going to tell us our largest, our second largest, and our third largest. So now we can take a look and see. All right, that's our largest, right? Cool. So we could merge this and call it, well, I'm gonna copy this into here. And then I wonder why that didn't change the color. Whatever, who cares? I don't care. Okay. And we're just gonna call this view. All right. So now, and actually I should have merged this all the way over. One thing you will know about me is I am a stickler for aesthetics and formatting. So forgive me, but it's a little OCD, I suppose. Anyway, so now we've got this data. Well, what the hell does this tell us? Doesn't tell us a whole lot without some reference. So let's go back and figure it out. This was yesterday's main slate. Okay. How would these lineups have done? So for this, you're going to need to get some data, right? I can just go into rewind and you can go into line of study. You can go into rewind and populate the up top there, the thing on Fantasy Cruncher that tells you where the actual scores are and everything. So we'll go in there. You probably want to look at a contest that is the one you're playing in, right? I mean, you might want to know how did this do in the mini max? I mean, in the Millie Maker, but like if you played the mini max, like you're really trying to assess how you really did. So just for now, let's take a look at the mini max, the 50-cent NFL mini max. Top score in this thing was 251.48. Okay. And the cut line was 148.98. So we can actually put these in here. Let's do this. Let's say what did I say it was? The top score was 251.48. Okay. Which actually is a bigger score than what won the Millie Maker. And you'll see that a lot. And the reason that happens is because lineups, like even though there might be more entries in a contest, you'll often see higher scores in lower dollar entry contests because a greater portion of the field can max it. And every one entry that maxes is 149 dupes that are taken out because most people don't dupe themselves. So, in the Millie Maker, it's very, very common to see single bullets. And there are a lot of single bullets that are going to equal out and match each other and duplicate. And in the 50-cent mini max, a very large portion or a much larger portion of those people can max that because it's only $75 and you'll see a lot less dupes. Anyway, a lot fewer dupes. But anyway, so we'll say this is the top score and we'll say that the cut line is here. Okay. So the cut line was 148.98. Okay. So now at least we get some reference. So we can say our best lineup total was this. Would it have won? No. Would it have made the cut? Sure. Even our third best lineup would have made the cut, right? So good. Now, the question is, did we get this into our 150? Well, right now, we don't know, do we? You could go here and scroll down until you find it, right? In fact, I can visually see it right here. And we did, in fact, get it into our 150 because it's number 21. But what if it was not? What if it was like lineup number 1,300? Well, let's find it this way. Okay. So we're going to say equals, and we're just going to simply use the back half of that index match formula that I've been talking about so much, and that's the match part. Let's just match BO3, match that value to BH to that row, and we'll match it exactly, always. Close them up. Yeah, I know, I put too many parentheses. So what? And it says it's lineup number 21. Is that accurate? Well, it's in row 21, but you'll notice that is lineup number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Right? It's lineup number 18. Oh, it's 19. Excuse me. I counted stupid. So it's lineup number 19. Okay, which makes sense because we started at 3. So for this to be really accurate, -2, right? Because you want to minus these 2. We're looking at BH to BH. When it finds it, it's going to count from here. So you want to take out anything above where your lineups start, -2. Boom. It's at 19. Okay. Now we can do the same for here and here. So as you can see, this is interesting. We did get our best lineup into our top 20. In fact, it would have been in our 20 max. But we didn't get our second best in. We didn't get our third best. Okay. So if you're taking a look at the slate next time, you might want to say, well, did my sorting process do me right? I mean, if you're looking to get your best lineup into your top 150, yeah, it did. It did. It didn't get your other two. And by the way, you could look at your fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, best, whatever, however you want. I tend to look at 3 because, beyond that, I'm not really super interested. Um, or at least, it's a good reference point for me. But here's the other question now, right? This is very tempting to say, okay, I did great. But how good was this lineup really? In other words, is this what you're happy with? Top score was 251. Do you really want 206.38? Let's check it out. Where would that have put us if that was our best? If that was our bestie, where does that get us? Uh, for some reason, Fantasy Cruncher Rewind hates me asking that question. Let me look here. So that gets us into 200 and like around 230th position in that contest. So top 1%, right? That means top 1% finish. But this is sure as hell not what we're hoping for when we crunch. We're trying to win this thing. Okay. So one thing that I recommend doing is artificially putting in some good lineups here. Okay. Now, there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can simply go back to your contest, click on the person that won, and build their lineup somewhere in here. Okay. We could try that right now to see. So I like to do it up top, and I'll tell you why. Like somewhere near the top. I try not to erase my best like 10 lineups, but somewhere like around here, I will cut this out. You can do this on DraftKings because they put the name first, but not on FanDuel because they put the ID first. But so Justin Fields was the quarterback in the winning lineup, so we'll keep him. James Conner was second. So we can start by typing, oh, actually, it's James here. We could type, and if it's anywhere below me in any of my lineups, it'll appear. So it's easy to do. James Conner. Oops, I just screwed that up. Saquon Barkley. right? Who was the next one? It was, let me see. I lost my place. Sorry. Sorry, I lost my place in the lineup here. Oh, okay, Christian Watson. So it was not Christian Kirk, damn you. Is Christian Watson Christian Watson? Yeah, it is with an H. So I don't have Christian Watson here. So we're gonna have to leave this one out for now. I missed in whatever crunch we're using. We don't have Christian Watson, but we do have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and there's Christian Kirk, and we do have Cole Kmet. We got Tony Pollard, and we have the Vikings. So the only person we're missing here is Christian Watson, right? So here's a little tip. You don't need Christian Watson's actual ID. You could just call it 2519 blah blah blah. And it will still pull Christian Watson just fine in your model, right? The way we set this up. And then that'll still reference him just fine and it will get his points. So anyway, so now we've got the winning lineup in here. Okay. And here it is. It says 251.48, and I can confirm on my screen over here that the Minimax was in fact won by this line. Okay. So now it's in our mix. So let's resort and let's see where that would have gotten. So when we resort, now this is our top lineup. In fact, if we had crunched this bad boy and entered it, we would have won. Unfortunately, it would have only gotten to 451 in our sort. And for some reason, when I recrunched, my next best lineup is no longer that high. I guess maybe I hadn't sorted. Oh, well. Nonetheless, so we get that 206 in our top 150, but we did not get the winning lineup in our top 50. So here's where you want to start thinking. Is this the right way to sort? Okay. And you can play around with this. You can say, what if I had done 0.4, 0, and 0.6, and then resort? And now that makes it worse. It makes it worse for this guy, but makes this one much better. And you could say, all right, well, maybe that was a chalky line. What if you could just say, what if we did all projection? Okay, so clearly it's better with the projection than is the ownership. Now, what if we added a little bit of ownership to this mix? How does it do? You know what? I don't even know. It went from, so 27 to 39. So apparently this was a chalky lineup within the, relative to what we've got here. So is that really like, if I figured out a mix here that got this thing into my 150, is that what I want to roll with next week? Of course not. You're going to need to keep doing this over and over again and keep tracking and see, okay, well, I have found that if I use this, if I use this mixture on most NBA nights, NFL days, I have gotten the best results. I've gotten these guys to be the best results that I've seen. Then maybe that's your new sorting metrics. It's just a way to evaluate it. I'm not suggesting that if you find one day that gets it right, then there you go. You just ride off into the sunset, print money. One other thing that I'll show you that you can add here is you can add another column. Okay. And this column, you can say, what is the best score that is in my 150? Right? So you can say equals the large of BH3 locket to BH152 locket 1. What is the largest score in there? And of course, we know it's the 206.38. But the reason I'm showing you this is, we could see this is, large in 150, the large of 150, right? So the reason I'm showing you this is it's very obvious when your second highest overall score, I should have known that, is in your 150, number 41, that's going to equal. But what if we did something where like, what if we did something like this? Can we kick all three of these values out? Yeah. So now we've kicked all three of these values out. Now you have no idea what your best lineup was in your 150, but here it tells you. It still tells you, well, that's weird. It tells you that it was 251.48. Oh no, I misread. It's 189.18. So it tells you that 189.18 was the best you got into your 150, barely above the cut line. Okay. One other thing you can do, which I think is pretty interesting, is now that we've entered our cut line in here, what if you wanted to know how many lineups in my top 150 would have been above the cut line? So, and by the way, every time I keep saying 150, if you're not a maxer, if you're a 20 person, a 50 person, just change the numbers here, okay? Like this would be 22 or 52 or whatever it is, okay? Very clear. But here's the cut line. What if we wanted to count if BH3, lock it in, BH152, lock it in. Whoops, wrong button, lock it in. What the hell am I doing? 152, lock it in. There we go. What if in that range, we wanted to know if it was greater than or equal to the cut line? So whenever you're doing a countif and greater than or equal, it's a really strange Excel formula. You have to put the greater than or equal to in parentheses, and then you have to say and then you have to give the value, which in this case is BO 8, no, 7, yep. So count how many in here were greater than the cut line or equal to the cut line in my top 150. None. That's not accurate. I mean, we know that this is in the 150. So what did we do wrong? Oh, because I counted BO 7. That's the top score. I accidentally, my eyes deceived me. It's BO 8. 38. So now we got 38 of our 150 would have technically cashed. Okay. So you could do that. You could do it like this. You could take these guys out, put them down here. Right. And by the way, if you use Control X to cut and then Control V, it will automatically update your references, BO11 now, right? And so you can cut this and put it here. And then you can actually say equals BO, what is that? 7 divided by 150 to see what percentage you would have cashed. And now you can say, above cut, whatever the hell you want to do. Okay. So now you can make it pretty if you want. You can add some color, fancy it up, but there you go. Now you have your top in 150, your largest in 150, and then you have how many above your cut line, and then what percentage that is above the cut line. These are just things that you can do and say, well, what if I went with this sort? How does this change things? Okay, now we're cashing 40%, right? And we've got a 206.38 in there. So we're not doing too bad here. Like this isn't horrible, right? This is probably, a garden variety. I snuck one into the 1%, cashed 40% of my lineups, lost, 50% of my money, lost 40% of my money, whatever the hell it is, because, that lineup there in the top 1% is going to net you back more than one loss. But so you can evaluate this way. Now, last thing I'll show you here before I split, you can come over now to your table and you can add actual scores to your fun little exposures table here. And we can say if BR3 equals blank, then blank. Otherwise, let's index this column, match, and we know it's BR3 because we already said if it's blank, right? Match our BR3 to this column exactly. Close our parentheticals and send these down. Fix this ugly thing. And now you can come in here and say, all right, I was, well, you could say I was really far over the field here on Justin Fields, and that was a great thing because he crushed, right? You could say I was under the field on Amari Cooper, and that's a good thing because he sucked. Okay, you can do that. Now, last but not least, please note, since we left spaces here, this guy can become sortable. You don't only have to have one sortable section on your page. Highlight these rows, control. Oh shoot, what did I do? No, I'm lying. I meant to, sorry. Ignore what I just said. You cannot make it sortable. That's what I meant to tell you. You can't make this sortable. Your sortables are already burned here. You used it for here. But what you can do is you can click anywhere in here, format as table, right? You can pick any color you want. You can make it the same it is now. You could change it. You can format it as a table. Make sure that it says it as headers because it does. Although, you know what? You don't want this. You can't have two headers. So highlight from here down. Okay. Then format as table. Then tell it has headers because these are your headers. Make sure that all of your data is included and say okay. And when you make it into a table, it will automatically give you the filters. That's what I meant to say. Okay. So now that it's a table, you automatically have filters. And now you can say, all right, who was I highest exposed to? Notice it's blank. Do you remember that problem from when we built the model the first time? Uh-huh. So what do you do to fix it? If you remember correctly, I somehow am like lost in my table. There we go. What you do is anything you want to sort on, you have to give it oh, you know what I did? I just realized I cut my weird. All right, I'm not showing my screen enough. There we go, to see these. That's what the problem is. Aha. So anything you want to sort, you just need to give the blank values a value that you wouldn't want to sort to. So in other words, if you're going to sort by your highest exposures, you want to give it a 0. So that everything that isn't filled in here is going to be 0, so that when you sort by largest, it's going to go to your largest, okay? So now you see Pollard was my second highest exposure, 24.8. Barkley was my third highest. He had a 26, right? And you can go down the line here and you can see, okay? Robert Tonyan was I had 17% Robert Tonyan. The field's at 3%, and he put up a 1.8, right? So if you lost yesterday with these lineups, this is probably a big reason why, okay? So there you go. I hope that helps somebody. And I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to show you. Let me think before I go. Nope. Have some fun with it. Make some changes. And good luck.